Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, yep.
So we're going to learn a tool called annotating today. Annotating is a way of interacting with a poem or different texts too, and it's personal. So I have some ideas here, but they're just that, they're ideas. So you can do whatever helps you to understand and think more about the poem. So some ideas that you can start off with are, and now to get started and help you guys learn how to use this a little bit more, I have a poem that we can all annotate together. And here's what it looked like after I annotated it, but we can all do our own annotation together and it doesn't have to look exactly like that. Does that make sense to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to start off reading it and I can ask you guys some questions to kind of help guide you through the annotation. But if there's a part that I don't mention that you want to write something down, feel free to raise your hand or just shout out or send something in the chat box, whichever is easiest for you. So here's the poem we're going to be reading. And the title is HS and the date is Thursday, September 6th. So first off, is there anything you guys notice about the title?
It's very mysterious. Like, I don't really know.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So if I were to ask you guys like what school you go to, what would you say?
Oh, ERHS. So it's like part of like I went to East Rockingham High School. So.
Right. So you kind of say the whole name. So what stuck out to me is she doesn't say the whole name of her high school. So it's very impersonal. So she doesn't feel very connected to it. It's just like kind of blank HS, right?
Yeah.
All right. And then she writes Chisholm HS. So now we have the name. So if we were marking changes in patterns, I would probably mark that because now she says the whole name of the school. And she says sits wide and squat, taking up half a block, red brick and fenced in courtyard with ball hoops and benches. Does that, when she describes the courtyard, what feelings does that bring up or what does it seem like? Does it seem like a fun place or no? Kaylee, what you said no. What is it? What impressions do you get?
Kind of reminds me of like a prison, like the way she's not using like pleasant words like wide and squat, fenced in.
Yeah.
That'd just be more describing like a thoughts more of like a prison than like a place to learn.
Right. It definitely doesn't seem like she has a great impression of her school. There we have kind of, again, relating to what you said earlier, prison with like crime and violence. So again, it's not a very great impression of her school. So now that we've read the whole poem, what parts seem most important to you guys?
I think it's big how the way that she describes her school versus Twin's fancy genius school. I think that comparison was very drastically different.
It's a really good point. And the fact that she associates them with people might say something about like what she feels about her compared to Twin too. Anything else that you guys noticed or any parts that seemed really happy or sad that stood out to you? Yeah, Jennifer?
Going off what Kaylee said off, fancy genius school, glass and futuristic, like in my head, it's very sleek and modern. And then compared to her high school, it sits wide and squat. Like that is a very strong image and it's very different and opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can put like kind of, they're both strong images and opposite images too.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that stood out to me was also, she describes hers as the typical hood school. And so kind of like with not saying the name of the school, it almost seems like, oh, this is just any school. Like she doesn't have a personal connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I noticed throughout the whole poem that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, and like going along with what she said about like reputation, like it's just like what someone would stereotypically think. It's not like she doesn't give any unique qualities to it.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And then we're also going to see a bunch of different kinds of poems throughout our unit. So we have a short little chant to help you start recognizing different kinds of poems. So I'll read it for you guys all once, and then I'll read the first line, and you guys can all repeat the second line back afterwards. All right, so you guys ready to repeat?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so some poems have a certain length.
Couplets come in
Couplets
come in
come in
pairs
pairs
of
of
two.
two.
Nice. Some poems have to rhyme.
like the
Like
limit
the limerick
about
about
Nick.
Nick.
Some poems rules are strict.
For
For
example,
example,
Shakespeare's
Shakespeare's
sonnet.
Other poems are like epics.
They just have
They
a
just have a
certain
certain
topic.
topic.
All right, good job. And we'll keep practicing that as we go. And we'll learn more about different kinds of poems. Do you guys know any other kinds of poems that weren't in there?